This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Welcome, everyone, to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the U.S. and beyond. As a warm embrace of summer envelops the Northern Hemisphere, we've had the privilege of conversing with remarkable individuals throughout this season. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. And on today's Season 3 premiere, folks, we have a truly exciting guest. Get ready to be inspired as we welcome the incredible Anna, known to many as Magic on the AT. If you want to keep up with her inspiring journey, make sure to follow her on Instagram at AnnaMcKinney22. During our conversation, we dove into Anna's transformative journey from day hiking to backpacking and ultimately conquering the mighty Appalachian Trail. She also shares tales of the outdoor experiences in the picturesque landscapes of Wisconsin. And to top it all off, we dive deep into the intriguing topic of striking a balance between social media and the great outdoors. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Anna. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I have a really wonderful guest with me today. Her name is Anna, and she's done some amazing hiking both on the East Coast and just recently in the Southwest. Thank you, Anna, for joining us on the podcast today. We always like to start off with our guests by asking them how they got started hiking and how long they've been hiking for.
Yeah, so my story is that I grew up in Western North Carolina, which if you're familiar with the Southeast, Asheville, my hometown, is kind of just like this mecca for all things outdoors. But I definitely grew up not super duper outdoorsy. My family camped, but we were camping in campers. So we were kind of bougie in that way. I grew up in the mountains and then went to the flatter area in North Carolina to go to college. And that's actually where I really fell in love with the outdoors just because I missed being in the mountains so much. Kind of that distance makes the heart grow fonder, I guess. But I went to school at East Carolina University. And when I was there, I got involved in their outdoor leadership program and was able to go on my first backpacking trip in the Grayson Highlands. And it just really ignited this passion and this love for being outdoors. So when I moved back to Western North Carolina after completing my degree, I just fell in love with the natural world and tried to get outside as much as I could. So I did just tons of day hiking. I found some friends that also were into backpacking and kind of got my toes wet a little bit more. And then in 2021, I went full off the deep end and through hiked the Appalachian Trail. So that's kind of my background. Now I traipse around in Great Smoky Mountains National Park all the time.
Oh, that's amazing. And it seems like the area that you would consider your home base is really an underrated area of the United States when it comes to hiking. Because for me, like, I didn't realize how many waterfall hikes you guys had. And just like you were saying before we were recording, the fall colors. You know, when people think of fall colors, they think of the Northeast, but down in your neck of the woods, it's just as beautiful. Is there any other unique features when it comes to hiking or the landscape that you really enjoy?
Yeah, there's just so many incredible. The national park, obviously, the Smokies borders, or it's shared between North Carolina and Tennessee. But also, there's just tons of different national forest land that's all around that have incredible trails. Blue Ridge Parkway also runs through Western North Carolina and Tennessee. It actually starts in Great Smoky Mountains National Park and runs the 500 some odd miles up to Shenandoah National Park. And it just kind of hugs the mountains, and it just has incredible scenic hikes and waterfalls and just all kinds of cool history too that's around that area. The nice thing too about the Blue Ridge Parkway is that you don't have to work very hard. You can just drive it, but you can also get out and hike around. There's crazy cyclists that you'll see biking. They're way tougher than I am, but those are definitely some of my favorites. Lots of really cool fire towers that people can explore, and you can go peak bagging, even though the peaks might be a little bit lower. There are in the southeast, I think. So on the East Coast, there are 54, if I'm not mistaken, 6,000 footers or peaks that are at or above 6,000 feet. And I think 52 of them, maybe 53, are in North Carolina and Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
So fun little known fact for people. But yeah, it's really cool. A lot of them too run along the Appalachian Trail or some of the other big trails like the Mountains to Sea Trail and oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank. Maybe the Benton McKay Trail. I don't know. Jennifer Farr Davis, who's a really prominent hiker in this area, she recently figured out a route to hit all of those different 6,000 foot peaks in the southeast, and it's called the Appalachian High Route. So if you're interested in that, you can give it a Google. But it's just really neat, and it connected some of those pre-existing trails that I'm drawing the blank on the third one.
Wow. Do you know how many days it took her to complete that trail system?
So she actually didn't do it as a full through hike. She had already done the Appalachian Trail and the Mountains to Sea Trail. And then maybe it was the Blue Ridge Connector, which is basically just a road walk for like 20 miles that connected those two trails. But there have been people, this just happened last year in 2022. And so there have been people, I think, that have through hiked it as a consecutive trail since then. Yeah, it's, I think, about 300-ish miles. I written an article about it, is why it's like coming to my mind, but it obviously has been a little while since I wrote that. So that's why some of the details are kind of murky. But it's just a really cool thing that I think showcases the beauty of this area. And I think a lot of people get really jazzed about peak bagging in Colorado with climbing the 14 footers, or even in like New Hampshire where you can climb the 4,000 footers. But also in the southeast, you can climb 6,000 footers.
Yeah.
So kind of cool.
You know, the more I talk to people from your neck of the woods, it's truly remarkable. And I think one of the things that I don't see in other parts of the United States that's really prominent in North Carolina and around your neck of the woods is the accessibility to a lot of the hikes. You know, there's wonderful features throughout your state and your region for all different types of ability levels. Is that a fair and accurate kind of representation of what's available in your area?
I think so. And a big part of that too, I think back of the Blue Ridge Parkway, because there are very long, very strenuous hikes that you can do off of that. But also too, you can literally take just like a driving tour. And then there are scenic pull-offs every mile, 2 miles. And so it's a great way for people who might not want to venture as far out or not feel as comfortable or not have that ability. They can still see these beautiful sights, get out of the car if they want to, meander around, still kind of feel that grass beneath their feet, feel that sun on their face and that fresh mountain air. So yeah, I think it is a really nice feature in this area as well.
And I think the one thing that really captured my imagination and makes me want to visit your neck of the woods is the sheer amount of waterfalls you guys have. This is almost an impossible question, so I'm going to ask it a little bit differently. But if you had a friend that was visiting and had a free day to go explore and wanted to see some of the best waterfalls, what would be the 3 recommendations you would give them?
Yeah, there are, like you said, tons. One of the favorites, I think, for locals is in the DuPont National Forest. There's a lot of different waterfalls, but there are several that you can hit all on one hike. So you can hit triple falls on one hike, which is 3 like cascading waterfalls that go down together. I'm not doing a good job explaining it, but give it a Google. It's beautiful. So you can hit that. You can hit Hooker Falls, and you can hit, I had to look up the name for the other one because I forgot. You can hit High Falls as well. Triple Falls, Hooker Falls, and High Falls that are all on that one hike, which is really, really cool. And it's out in DuPont. It's towards Brevard, North Carolina, which is maybe like a 45-minute drive from Asheville. But Brevard is a really, really beautiful, sweet little mountain town. Fun fact, they're home to the White Squirrel Festival. They have like a really weird, large amount of white squirrels, which I'm not sure if it's just like a genetic thing or what, but like I've seen black squirrels before. I've seen gray squirrels are the most common around here until you get high elevations and you've got those brown or those fox squirrels. But white squirrels are really, really special and really unique. And that is home to, or they're home in Brevard. So.
Interesting. You've really progressed from just day hiking, backpacking, and through hiking. How was it transitioning from day hiking to backpacking? And can you share a little bit about your first backpacking experience?
Lots of growing pains. I think that everyone that gets into backpacking looks back at their first few trips and it's just like, what the heck was I doing? So my first ever backpacking trip was when I was in college. I was working again at the outdoor leadership program for my university, and we traveled to Grayson Highlands State Park in Virginia, which is on the AT. It's where the wild ponies are. If you've ever seen photos, that's a highlight for people along the AT are the wild ponies. It was a group of maybe 5 or 6 young women. We were all like 18, 19 years old. We didn't know what we were doing. And since I was working for the outdoor leadership program, somehow I got to lead the program or be part of one of the leaders. And it was my first backpacking trip. I remember I had like a change of clothes for every single day. I had like nothing but like cotton clothing, my pack. Looking at the photos now from that trip are so funny because my pack didn't fit me properly. It was just like a rental from the school. But there are just so many little things that I look back on and laugh as now someone that has experience. And it's like, man, I needed someone to help me. But I mean, I survived. I did it and fell in love with it there. So you can only go up from those kinds of experiences. And it's one of those things that like you don't know that there are different ways of doing things until you figure it out or someone educates you on that. So my second backpacking trip I went on in Great Smoky Mountains National Park with a guy that I was dating at the time. And it rained. We were out for maybe 2 or 3 days and it rained the entire time. I think we got maybe an hour of sunshine and that was it. Again, all cotton clothing, everything got soaked. I remember, so the Smokies are really unique because you were required to camp at designated campsites, but there are close to 100 different backcountry campsites. So you have tons of ones to choose from when you were picking out your permit. But anyway, we were at this campsite and all of the campsites in the Smokies have bear cables that you are using to hang your food bags in order to try to keep bears, mice, things like that away from your campsite, out of your food, that kind of stuff. And we didn't know what we were supposed to do with with bear cables, with food, all that stuff. And so we hung our entire packs, which some people do. And I think it's totally fine. Most backpackers, or at least through hikers, just ensure that all of their smelly things are in their food bag and then hang only their food bags, especially if it is really crowded at a campsite. But it was just he and I at the time, pouring rain. We hung our whole packs, everything. We just have this little rainy, soggy pinata that's hanging during the night. I remember we like spilled food because we were trying to cook ramen noodles and we like spilled that everywhere. Like looking back now, very not leave no trace because we didn't know any better. We didn't know what to do. We spilled our food. We were convinced bears were going to come into our camp in the night. I don't think we slept at all because we were scared. It was just really, really funny. Again, lots to learn from those experiences. Lots of progress has been made, but it's just funny. And I commend my younger self because in spite of all of that adversity and all the like hardship and these moments that I look back on now and cringe, like I continued to pursue that. I was really out of my element and yet still wanted to do that and learn more about it. And because of that desire, now here I am, someone with a lot of experience under their belt, but there's still so many more miles and so many more trails. So always something.
No, thanks for sharing. And I think a lot of people have similar experiences, at least for me. And, the one thing that always comes to mind is the first time I visited Banff. I was a hiker, like a day hiker, but I wasn't like ready for Banff level hiking. Mm-hmm. So we had like drawstring backpacks because we had the car full of stuff for camping. We went in the late summer, so it was still like 80 degrees, but didn't realize that because of the elevation, at night it was getting into the 20s. So just like all the, not mishaps, but just the lessons that you learn throughout the progress that you do in hiking, you kind of look back at it. And at least for me, I can laugh at it now and be like, I've learned so much. And even just a short period amount of time talking to people like you and hearing your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's good to remind yourself of where you came from, have that dose or take a slice of humble pie,
Now, you've been to some amazing places over the last couple of years, Anna, and not just here in the United States, but also abroad. Before we jump into those adventures, the one that really caught my eye, and I think it's another underrated region of the country when it comes to hiking, is Wisconsin. Wisconsin doesn't scream out as a hiking destination for a lot of hikers, but you were able to visit some really impressive state parks and do some really great hikes with some amazing viewpoints. How was it hiking in and around Wisconsin?
Yeah, it was incredible. So I was in Wisconsin the summer after I graduated college. That's where I did my internship. When I got my placement, I'll be honest, I was devastated. I did not want to go to Wisconsin. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that it snowed a lot there. I was going to be there in the summertime, thankfully. But when I got there, I just fell in love with it. It is so underrated, like you said. Beautiful. The summertime is just very comfortable temperature-wise. There's so much water, so much greenery. So I had a fantastic time while I was there. If I'd been there in the winter, maybe it would have been a different story. But yeah, it was great. I loved Wisconsin. So when I was working there was another intern who she also really liked to travel and was outdoorsy and liked to just get out and do stuff. And so we worked during the week, but then every weekend she and I would travel and go do different things that we wanted to do. So I think some of our favorites, we went to Devil's Lake, which I think is a state park down there. Big, beautiful lake. We rented kayaks. We hiked around. It was just super duper pretty. There's not a ton of elevation change from what I can remember up there. I think we went to the highest point, which was maybe 800 feet, maybe, if I remember correctly. But one thing that's really piqued my interest in recent years is the Ice Age Trail, which is a long distance trail in Wisconsin. It's, I think, 1,200 miles long.
Wow.
And it goes, I think, from like the top to the bottom of the state, if I'm not mistaken. But it's supposed to be beautiful. I've had listened to some podcasts where folks have either done sections of that trail or have through hiked it, and it just sounds phenomenal. Really, really pretty, lots of water, lots of greenery. It's definitely on my list of things that I might be interested in terms of long trails. So definitely check out the Ice Age Trail if you're looking for something longer.
I think it was Devil's Lake State Park that caught my attention initially because of the rock formations in and around the state park.
Yeah, I don't remember the history of it. It's been several years since I was there, but I want to say it was something about volcanoes that caused like the craters. I really don't know. Someone's going to Google that and be like, this woman does not know what she's talking about. Didn't do my research beforehand, obviously.
But definitely some would you consider it an arch? Because like the one picture that you took, it was like almost like if somebody just stacked a bunch of rocks into like a little arch formation.
There was like a really specific name too for that formation that is just not coming to my mind of what it was, like Devil's Tooth or something like very dramatic like that. But yeah, there were different formations like that you could hike to all just around the lake. And the thing that makes me want to say that I recall it being formed from like a volcano is the fact that it was kind of crater shaped. But again, maybe that's not the case. I need to obviously go to Devil's Lake, do some research beforehand, go see the informational things that I neglected to when I was there several years ago. Maybe I did, and it's just not coming to memory.
No, we'll definitely link, if I can find the link to Devil's Lake State Park, I'll link it in the episode notes.
Perfect.
The other place that caught my attention, and similar because of the rock formations, was Witch's Gulch.
Yeah, from what I remember from that too. And again, it's been a few years since I was there, but we had to take like a riverboat cruise to it, which was really cool. Yeah, if I remember correctly, so Devil's Gulch was near the Wisconsin Dells, which is similar to Gatlinburg, if that means anything to you. Gatlinburg is lovingly called Redneck Las Vegas, or the Vegas of the South. And Wisconsin Dells is very similar vibe to Gatlinburg. But the thing that's cool about Wisconsin Dells is it's on this big river that the name is escaping me. But so we took a riverboat tour cruise thing, scenic boat ride down the river and came to just this big island that we got to get out and hike around to Devil's Gulch, which it was just this really big, not cavern because it was open, but these sheer rock walls that you on either side of you that you were walking through, and it was really mulchy and beautiful, and there was waterfalls and just small cascades. Didn't hike super duper far because we had to turn around and get back on our little boat and continue our river cruise, but it was beautiful from what I can remember. And definitely if you're looking for a more outdoorsy thing to do in the very touristy Wisconsin dells, then it was a really, really good kind of breakaway from that.
Yeah, no, it looked amazing. It kind of reminded me almost of like a slot canyon because, like you said, it's not fully enclosed, but they have a really nice walkway on the, I guess, ground level that you can just kind of walk through, which made it look really accessible and easy to get to.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I would definitely recommend it. Wisconsin, hidden gem, y'all. Who knew? Summertime is the time to hit it. But yeah, it was great. We got to go up to the northern part to like Egg Harbor, which was really beautiful and scenic on the Great Lakes, and to the Apostle Islands too. Did another boat cruise out there. That was fun. So yeah, I have very, very fond memories of Wisconsin. I haven't made it back since that internship in like 2018, but I would love to go. Even who knows, maybe I'll do the Ice Age Trail. We'll see.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, might have sparked an interest in going
absolutely.
back. Well, outside of beautiful Wisconsin, you've been to also some amazing places abroad. Australia, New Zealand come to mind. And then just recently, you did a Southwest road trip while you were doing, before and after the AZT. What are some of your fondest memories hiking outside of the East Coast?
Oh, so my first time hiking outside of the East Coast really was this most recent trip that you're referencing. So my fiance, his name's Cade. He and I and our friend Pimento went and attempted the Arizona Trail this past spring. And so Arizona was really the first time that I was going to venture super duper far out west. When I was 18, when I just graduated high school, I had this really incredible opportunity to travel with an organization called Teens Westward Bound. And their whole premise was just taking 80 random high school students from North and South Carolina on a tour of the West. So they loaded 80 of us up on a young bus, and we traveled from North Carolina to California and back. So we saw 23 states in 23 days. So it was really, really crazy. We got to see a lot. We went to a lot of places, but we weren't there for any extended period of time. So I say that to say that on that trip, I got to see the Grand Canyon, but it wasn't until I got to do the Arizona Trail and then took our road trip all around the Southwest that I really got to feel this like intimate knowledge of these places, just because I was there. I was living on the land and just like communing with these beautiful, beautiful landscapes. So I think there's a lot to be said for being able to spend an extended period of time somewhere. You really get to feel like you take ownership of it. So I got much more familiar with Arizona on that trip, but definitely know that I want to go back and see more out there because we just scratched the surface is really what it came down to.
And you hit up some amazing places in just a short period of time. And the fact that you went cross country on a bus, 23 states in 23 days is just, it sounds amazing, but also like at the end of the 23 days, I imagine just exhausted.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I mean, too, like I was 18, like sky's the limit at that point. Like you're never tired. You're just like excited to be there. And I was with just like a huge group of other eager, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed teenagers. So I really commend our leaders of that trip, the adults that were brave enough to travel with us. But yeah, it was such a cool trip. And I really think just exposed me to specifically like national parks, because I had never dreamed of traveling to the places. I mean, we went to the Grand Canyon, we went to Yosemite, we went to see the redwoods. Where else did we go? We went all over. Like we drove down kind of not along the Gulf of Mexico, but like down from North Carolina through like Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, made our way out to California, went up the coast of California, and then back around through like Idaho and Colorado, Kansas. So yeah, we saw a lot. It was awesome. I would love to mirror that trip just over like a 6-month stint instead of doing it at the breakneck speed that we did. But it was so cool because it exposed me to these places that I knew I really wanted to go back to one day. And so it was really special able now as a 26-year-old to go back and see them again through a just totally different lens.
Yeah. And being a Lord of the Rings fan, like, I got to ask, because you got a chance to visit Hobbiton. I think New Zealand is one of those abroad destinations for U.S. hikers that is up there in the list of hiking destinations. How was it visiting New Zealand and visiting Hobbiton?
Yeah, it was awesome. Ivan, don't think differently of me after I tell you this, but I am learning to become a Lord of the Rings fan. When I visited Hobbiton, I had never seen any of the movies, so I don't feel like I really appreciate it. It was beautiful. It was so cool because everything that you see in the movies is in real life. Like, they just created the space and then left it there. Turned it into a big tourist attraction, which is awesome because you get to go and like enter in these little hobbit holes, and it's just so pretty, this picturesque farmland. There's like sheep running around everywhere. There's a rainbow. When we were there, you get to go to the little pub and they serve like a really special beer there that you get to have. It was really cool. Cade, my fiance, he's a big Lord of the Rings fan, and so New Zealand is very high on our list. So whenever we go there, we're going to have to go to Hobbiton. And at that point, maybe I will have seen all the movies. I think I've seen the first two. I haven't seen Return of the King yet. So working my way up to it.
No fault. And, to be honest, I only watched the movies until like the last 2 years. Did I finally start reading the books and try to see if there's a different perspective in the books? Because so many people love the books before they love the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cade he rereads the books like every other year. He's a huge fan. Wow. So yeah, y'all could definitely chat about some of that stuff, I'm sure.
Coming back to the stateside, we've learned about your progression from day hiking to backpacking, and we've heard about your AT experience in 2021. How did that journey kind of come about from, doing backpacking trips to then shifting to through hike?
So I think I had said whenever I moved back to Western North Carolina after I graduated from college, I was just day hiking. Like, I became a weekend warrior, and that's just what I wanted to do every weekend, was just be out in the woods. I'd heard of the AT just because, again, from Western North Carolina, the trail is 200 some ish miles in North Carolina, and knew about it, had read a lot about it, was just always really curious about it, but it didn't seem like something that I would ever actually do or that I was in any hurry to do, just because I was working. So my background is that I used to be a certified child life specialist. So my role was to help pediatric patients and their families cope with hospitalization. So I did a lot of education about the medical field, just kind of like, this is what an IV means, or this is what an MRI is, just from a developmentally appropriate level for kids. I love that job. It was what I was really passionate about. But at the end of 2020, I got laid off. So that just kind of sent my world spiraling, and I really didn't know what I would do. I was just totally at a loss. And some of my friends who I'd gotten into backpacking with, again, just on the weekends, had kind of been toying with the idea of through hiking. And so I approached them and was like, hey, like, I have all this free time now. Can I come with you? And they said yes. And so the three of us, my good friends, Allie and Kayla, we all departed from Springer Mountain in Georgia together. We didn't finish the trail together. We're all still really good friends. They just hike faster than me. But so we all three finished successfully, which is really cool. So still really close with them, but it just totally opened my eyes to a different world and a different way of living. So my AT experience was very, very formative, and I think back on it every single day.
How long of a journey was that for you, Anna? How long did it take to reach the terminus?
Yeah, it took me about 5.5 months. I think it was 169 days. So I kept a journal while I was hiking and wrote in it every night, or would go back and pretend like I wrote in it every night when I missed a few. But I think my tally from that was 169. But I turned that journal into a blog. So all those things have been digitized now with pictures and other usings from the trail.
We'll be sure to share a link to that blog, because you really give some good insights on your journey on the AT for anybody that's interested in getting into through hiking. I think it's a good read.
Thanks.
Now, Anna, one of my favorite things to hear is how people got their trail names, because, there's so many stories on how people get their trail names, but you have a very specific trail name that you got on the AT.
Yeah.
Can you share what that is and how it kind of came about?
Yes. My story is not as dramatic or funny, as a lot of people. So my trail name is Magic, and I got that name pretty early on in Georgia, just because people said that I got a lot of trail magic, so they just like to hike around me. That's really it. Nothing too crazy.
What kind of trail magic would you get? Would you
Yeah,
say the kind?
again, nothing like out of the ordinary. I think I was just at the right place at the right time. I don't think people were like seeking me out because I was like really nice or people thought I was pretty or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially in Georgia, you get a ton of trail magic. If you're a northbound hiker that starts kind of in the bubble, people like to call it, or if you're just like in that big group of people, because every year there's 5,000 to 8,000 people that attempt a through hike. Most of them start in Georgia. And so there is just this flood of people that are coming through there. And so trail angels, or people that are just doing nice things for hikers, come out just in masses to do everything from grill you hot dogs, make you pancakes, take you into town, do whatever you need to do. People are just so kind and so selfless. And I think time and time again, I hear folks say that the trail just really restored their faith in humanity, because you have strangers that are literally willing to like give you the shirt off their back if you need it. So that was just a really, really special experience. Yeah, most of my favorite trail magic included food.
Yeah, and hearing people's stories of the trail magic that they receive. I live about a 30-minute drive from one of the popular, not 0 days, but a popular crossing for the PCT. And I'm hoping this year, weather permitting, I'll be able to kind of provide some trail magic and do a barbecue a couple days.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, there's a couple podcast guests that have been on previously that are already on the PCT.
Wow.
So I'm hoping I can, pinpoint the day that they'll be crossing and meet them there and provide trail
Absolutely.
magic to them and others as well.
Wow. Oh, man, you will just make their days. You're about to see just like what gratitude looks like in its purest form. So good for you. Already planning to be an angel. That's awesome.
And a lot of people, when they talk about their experience on through hikes, it's, a lot of it's the preparation and then the experience on the trail. I'm curious to kind of find out, is there an adjustment period once you get off the trail? And, it's cliche to kind of say like to get back into real life, because I feel like the real life is on the trail. But how was it transitioning off trail and kind of getting settled back into your hometown?
It is a totally different adjustment. I think you hit the nail on the head of trying to like define like trail life versus real life. They're two very distinct things for sure. I had a really unique adjustment period, I would say, just because I came off trail, was home with my parents for 2 or 3 days, and then I actually moved into the role working as the caretaker of the Appalachian Trailer, which Jennifer Davis, who I mentioned earlier, famous trail personality, if you will. She's an author and record holder and just an incredible human being. But she started this backpacking company called Blue Ridge Hiking Company, which she just recently sold. It has a new owner. The former manager, Lindsay, is now the owner. So we're really excited for her. But they have a bunkhouse in Hot Springs, North Carolina, which is a trail town. The AT literally goes down Main Street in Hot Springs. So that's a really, really cool kind of feature there. But I was the caretaker. And so this is just a little 3-room little house that had the caretaker's room and then 2 bunk rooms. So there were like 10 total bunks that were there. Mainly it operates as the gearing area, or kind of the like landing zone for those Blue Ridge Hiking Company trips, but also it will house through hikers as they're coming through Hot Springs. So I was there for just 2 months at the end of through hiking season in 2021. So I was there during the SOBO, or the southbound season. And it was just this perfect place to kind of settle back into what real life was like. Like I remembered how to drive my car and like what having running water was like. And this is the wonders of like Netflix. All those things were rediscovered there. But also too, I was still fully immersed in this backpacking world. So I had hikers staying with me. I got to talk about the trail all the time. The trail was literally like at my doorstep. And so that was just the perfect place to kind of figure out how to be Anna again, because for almost 6 months, I had assumed this new identity of Magic, and she had these different traits than Anna. And how did I want to kind of like cultivate those two things together and just learn how to be this like new version of myself? So I'm very, very thankful for that opportunity just because my friend's reintegration, I guess you could say, was a lot more rough, might be a good way to say it, of just like, for example, Cade, my partner that I keep talking about, my fiance, he and I met on the AT. So we met about halfway through the trail and finished the trail together and fell in love and yada, yada. But Cade, by background, is a mechanical engineer. And so he went back to work as a mechanical engineer, which is very different than walking full time. So he was suddenly forced to just sit behind a computer at a desk all day. And he talked a lot about just like his body, how it was changing, how it was so used to moving constantly and being out in sunlight and syncing with like your circadian rhythm. And all of a sudden, the hustle and bustle of everyday life just kind of turns that on its head. A lot of hikers talk about experiencing post-trail depression, or just kind of this phase of just kind of disinterest with everyday life, or it's just like your normal life seems so much more drab and confining than your life did on trail. And a lot of people talk about just kind of the struggles of like learning to conform again. And like, kind of like I mentioned, of like I had found this totally different identity, and how was I going to stay true to myself and not lose sight of these new skills and confidences that I had gained, and yet fit back into the mold that I had kind of left behind for myself. So there's some really good books and articles and things that people have written about that. But I think it's something that a lot of people experience. And thankfully, I think a lot of people talk about. But I think for people that aren't hikers, it can be really hard to sit with. It can be hard to understand for sure. So I really don't feel like I experienced that, again, just because I had that kind of grace period. I think when I left the trailer or the bunkhouse, the Appalachian trailer, I felt that more just because I was kind of out of that world. I also, though, was like living with my parents at 25. So I wasn't thrilled about that. And that's just a different story. I was working from home. Like life was very different. So, yeah, that's my experience.
Well, thanks for being honest with that, Anna. And I think for both you and your partner, maybe your experiences after the trail is kind of what led you to your next adventure, and that's being backpacking guides in Tennessee and having the Great Smoky National Park as your backyard. Yeah. How was it finding that new path?
Yeah, I'm so thankful that this is the route that he and I have chosen to go. I mentioned that he went back to his quote unquote real job after the trail. And so once my season at the trailer finished out, I also went back into a traditional role working for a health education company. And he and I both were just very dissatisfied. It was just really hard to motivate myself to want to show up and open my laptop every single day and stare at a computer screen. And so I just started looking for other jobs. He and I both were just like scouring the internet to see what else was out there. He actually was the one that found this guiding job, and they were looking for a female hiking guide. And so I was like, what the heck? I'll apply. I'll see what happens. Got offered the job. And in my interview, I had mentioned like, oh, like my partner also is a thru hiker. He's really cool. They're like, oh my gosh, like he should apply. So he applied and he got the job. And we decided to take the step to move to Tennessee together, because I was living in North Carolina. He is originally from Mississippi and was living in Mississippi. So we decided that we would just kind of upend our whole life to pursue just, I guess, a more simplistic lifestyle. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, because our life is still very cushy. We have electricity, we have running water, all the things. We don't live in our tents all the time, which I'm thankful for. But it's just so nice because now I feel like we really get to kind of straddle that line that I feel like a lot of thru hikers, that post-trail depression kind of comes from, is having kind of separate those two worlds. And so now with being a backpacking guide, we kind of get to live in both. So we guide, we're working, we're in the woods for 3 or 4 days a week. And then we go home and are in a more traditional environment. So it's incredible. I'm super duper thankful for it. I tell people all the time that my job is their vacation. I get to meet people from all over the world and just share these beautiful places with them. I've just fallen in love with the Smokies the more that I learn about it. And it is just so incredible to be able to share that beauty and that magic with other people. And it's really empowering too, I think, to help, or I should say it's fun to help empower other people too, to learn this new skill set of backpacking, because it's a place where I feel like I've really come into my own. And so it's just really humbling to be part of that journey for other people.
Right on, Anna. And when it comes to backpacking in the Smokies, and if people are interested in doing some guided trips, Is there a particular season that's best for backpacking?
Yeah, it definitely just depends on kind of what you're looking for. We're really fortunate here. We get all 4 seasons. Our guiding season primarily runs March through November. We might not get a ton of snow like they do in the Pacific Northwest. We still get snow. High elevations, especially, gets a lot of snow. So the second tallest peak on the East Coast is in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It's Kligman's Dome. It's 6,643 feet, I think. But they get some brutal weather up there. Mount LeConte is another 6,000 footer, and they get just gnarly weather. There's actually a lodge up there that people can stay at, and they have a blog, and they'll post about their like record snowfall and things, and they'll get upwards sometimes of like 2 or 3 feet, which is a lot for us. So I don't have a ton of experience hiking in the snow. And so the thought of like trudging through that is really horrifying for me. Like I don't own micro spikes. At some point I will have to add those to my repertoire, especially if I want to do the PCT. But I got off topic. What was your original question? I'm sorry.
Oh, I think you answered it. Just what would be the best season for backpacking? It sounds like it's based on the preference of the backpacker.
Yes, there we go. Absolutely. In the springtime, we have an incredible display of wildflowers here. There are so many species that are endemic to the park, which means they're only found here, which makes them really, really special. So that is just a really, really unique feature. It's summertime, obviously. Things are very green, very lush. There's tons of water. There's just shy of 3,000 miles of stream in Great Smoky Mountains. So there's tons of opportunities to go for a swim, get your feet wet, go fishing. The fall time, we have this very just bright, vibrant change of color. So we call them leaf lookers that come to look at all the beautiful leaves in October. You're going to sit in traffic for a very long time, but it's going to be worth it, I promise. And then, the wintertime we get snow. It's a lot more quiet, but a lot of people are super duper excited about that. So as long as you're prepared, you can go winter camping, winter backpacking, whatever. You're stronger than I am. More power to you. Take me on a winter backpacking trip.
Oh, that's great to hear. Because, one of the things that I'm always concerned about, especially when it goes to traveling in the summer months, is I've gone to Atlanta when they have that just almost 100% humidity and it just hits you like a wall.
Yeah, you walk into it.
Yeah. But is the humidity not as bad because you guys are in a higher elevation up in the mountains?
Yeah, it definitely depends on where you're at in the park. There is a ton of elevation change. I'm not sure, actually. I need to look this up, what the lowest elevation in the Smokies is. Probably around 1,000 feet, I'd say. But then again, the higher elevation is just shy of 7,000. So there is a lot of opportunity to kind of escape that heat and escape that humidity, but you're still going to be like dripping sweat in the summertime. I won't lie to you. Not like you would be in Atlanta. It's still going to be hot, but it'll be a different level.
Okay. Well, that's great to hear that you can hike in any season. And I imagine the winter months are probably the least popular months, and you kind of get some sections just to yourself compared to the crowds of the spring and summer.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned this already, but you recently came back from being on the AZT, the Arizona Trail. How did that kind of come about, and how was it being on trail, especially in a different landscape like the Arizona desert?
Yeah, it was so different. I'll come back to that in a second and tell you kind of how we wound up there. So this past winter, Kate and I were talking about like, okay, what do we want to do? Now, guiding is very fulfilling. We love it, but also we are backpacking for work. It's the best job. I'm so grateful for it, but also I'm not the one in charge. I'm not necessarily picking the routes. We're catering our itinerary based off of our clients' needs. So that usually means that we're doing lower mileage days. We're seeing kind of the highlights of the park, but I've seen them a lot. I've been to Kligman's Dome a lot of times. It's incredible. Every time I go, it's still breathtaking. But sometimes I just want to go out and kind of do my own thing, pick the route, pick the itinerary. And so Kate and I were really kind of itching to be able to do another trail just in order to kind of shake the cobwebs off and see kind of what we were made of still. And the AZT piqued our interest because we had several friends that had done it, but it kind of just worked with our window of time, honestly. Most hikers on the AZT will do it northbound like we did, where they'll start at the Mexico border and work their way way towards Utah. Those hikers usually come out in the springtime, or you can do it Sobo or southbound in the fall. We wanted to go out before our guiding season really picked up in earnest. Shout out to our company for letting us take off for a couple months in the very beginning of the season. Yeah. But we just kind of picked the thing and we're like, we want to do it. We brought it up to our friends that we met on the AT, and it's how we ended up with our friend Pimento coming with us. And so the three of us set out to do this trail. We met a really incredible Kanasi. He's Australian that lives in Canada, named Bryce. His trail name was Radiator. We met him on the first day, and we all did 460 miles together. So we ended up not completing the trail, which is still kind of stings to say, but we did a little over half of it. Ultimately, we got off in Pine, Arizona, just because there was a lot of snow still up on the northern half of the trail. Back in like mid-April, the Grand Canyon National Park closed the north rim of the park, which the AZT goes through. Specifically, they closed the northern Kaibab Trail, which again, the trail is on. And honestly, the biggest thing that we were looking forward to in Arizona was going to be the Grand Canyon. And so knowing that we wouldn't be able to do that and seeing that there was still so much snow, a lot of people ahead of us were buying snowshoes in order to hike safely on the snow, or they were just planning a lot of detours that involved road walking. We just decided that ultimately that wasn't what we came out there to do. So we made the decision to get off trail. That was also pretty humbling to now say that we have attempted the AZT. We didn't complete the AZT. We ended up saying that we just turned it into a lash or a long ass section hike. So maybe one of these days we'll go back and complete those like 350 odd miles north of Pine that we have to do. But that's where we got that opportunity to do that big road trip, because then we had still like a week or two until we had to get home and our car was out there. And so we're just like, all right, let's go see what we can see. So in a week and a half, we saw 10 national parks, and so that was really wild and crazy too. But it was awesome. To circle back to the AZT, it was totally different than anything that I'd ever experienced. I'd never really spent any time in the desert. It was very harsh, obviously, very hot, lots of sun, which thankfully I feel like I adapted to after a little while. It definitely made me really appreciate where I live at now, where it's very shady and lush and there's lots of water, which I just am so thankful for. But again, I don't think I would have appreciated it had I not been in this totally different environment. It's beautiful in its own right. The desert has stunning landscape. I met a lot of people that talk negatively about the East Coast or the AT. They'll call it the green tunnel. They're like, there are no views. It's just trees, which I disagree with. But I will say on the AZT, you're just anywhere you look, there's going to be a view in every direction. Every summit, you're going to be rewarded with a beautiful view. There's no such thing as a wooded summit out there, which is kind of nice. We were hiking through a super bloom, which was incredible. Some of my favorite photos from the trail were of all of the different wildflowers. There's an app that we really like to use called Seek, SEEK, that's powered through iNaturalist. That's a plant identification, or I guess it'll identify bugs too and insects and things. It's an ID app. And so we really geeked out of like trying to learn different desert wildflowers just because there were so many, just color popping everywhere. So it was great, but I'm very thankful to be home.
No, yeah. And those pictures of the super blooms were amazing. And it is interesting how, the West Coast, especially the lower section of the West Coast and Southwest, with that massive snowstorms that came like every month. Even on the PCT, I'm starting to see people are still finding huge snow patches. But one of the benefits is the super bloom wildflowers. And I'm glad you got a chance to see it. And I have a feeling that you and your partner will end up finishing the AZT sooner or later.
I think so too.
Yeah. I don't know if it's something that through hikers have, because they're traveling almost every day. But when it comes to backpacking and day hikes, I feel like some people have summit routines or an end of the hike routine. Maybe it's a favorite snack or meal, maybe some sort of drink, or even just a moment of zen. Is there anything that you regularly do when you reach your destination, or maybe when you make it back out?
Yeah, I definitely like to have an adult beverage in my pack. Kate and I, especially when we go out and try to do bigger day hikes together, we'll try to pack a cooler in the car so that we can have some drinks waiting for us whenever we get done, or like going to a brewery or something afterwards is always really fun. I feel like though this question has inspired me to want to like take up a specific routine other than something that's just very vague of like, I like to drink beer afterwards. Like, oh, now I want to do something like really profound at the summit. So I don't know. I'm going to push myself now to try to maybe take some more moments of Zen. I take a lot of pictures, but that doesn't feel necessarily like a routine. That just feels like something we do at this point.
I think to this day, and maybe this will be the year that I'll attempt it, but last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, somebody brought up a charcuterie board. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I was impressed. I had my beer and my sandwich, and here they're having a nice spread, cheese, crackers, fruit, and having a beer, of course. But just to have that spread, I was like, okay, that's a elevated lunch right there.
Yeah, especially for a day hike, like you just gotta have the forethought to do it and the discipline to make it happen. So I always tell my clients, especially like on our last day when we're hiking out, I'm just like, y'all, nothing matters. It's a town day, or like we're just day hikers as of this point. Like you can do anything, you can carry whatever. Like you don't care that it's raining because you get to go home. You get to take a shower at the end of this.
You've progressed a lot of the different facets of hiking, from day hikes to backpacking to through hikes. When it comes to your pack list, is there an item that you have in your pack list that you consider your most valuable piece of gear?
So I'll say that my base weight, or like the pack weight, people get really snobby about their pack weights in the through hiking community. I'm not one of those people. I prefer honestly not to know how much my pack weighs because it makes me feel bad sometimes. But I think so I say that to say that I carry a lot of stuff, a lot of things that people might deem unnecessary. One of the things that I have gone without, and now I just love it so much I couldn't imagine going without it, especially on backpacking trips, is my pillow, my inflatable little pillow. So I use a Nemo Philo Elite pillow, which is just a little inflatable thing. It weighs, I don't know, 4 ounces, maybe 4 or 5 ounces. And it's worth its weight in gold. Honest to goodness, I sleep so much better with it. I also always carry a full accordion pad, or like a foam pad. And I still carry an inflatable sleeping pad, but I like my foam pad to sit on. But then I also do yoga when I'm hiking, or backpacking. And then I have a little foam sit pad for my day hikes. So I like to be off the ground.
And, we're halfway through 2023 already. Do you have any upcoming hiking goals for the remainder of the year, or maybe beyond 2023?
Yeah. Kate and I, one thing that we're working towards now that we're back in the Smokies is pursuing this thing called the Tour de LeConte. So Mount LeConte is a mountain that I've mentioned already. It is a 6,000 foot peak. I think it's like 6,500 something. I don't remember the elevation, but it's this huge mountain in the park. It's actually where Kate and I got engaged. So it's really sentimental to us. But there are 5, arguably 6 different ways that you can get to the top of Mount LeConte. And at the top is a lodge where the only way that you can get there is to hike in. It's the only bed that you can sleep in the national park. Fun fact. It's a rustic, like primitive, like totally off grid. Everything's run on either kerosene or propane. The way that they actually get equipment up there and they get dry goods and like their food and stuff up there is by llamas. There's a llama team that goes up 3 times a week to take food to LeConte, which is pretty special. But it's just this incredible mountain. So there's 6 different ways that you can go up there. And the Tour de LeConte is to do all 6 trails in 24 hours. So it ends up being about 45 miles and I think about 25,000 feet of elevation change. I say that we're going to do that. We'll see. I think we'll at least attempt it. Help finish. I don't know if I will, but it's something that we're working towards, especially having just got off the AZT. We got our trail legs. We're still in pretty good hiking shape. So now we're just training for that. We'll see if it happens. I don't want to be like, yeah, we're doing it, and then not actually do it and sound phony. So set my expectations low.
And do you And you don't have to say it, but is there another through hike that's popped into your guys' heads about
Oh
maybe being
man,
the
we've
next
got
one?
a bajillion hikes we want to
Okay.
do. We're getting married in June, and so we've like toyed with the idea of doing another trail for our honeymoon. We had wanted to do the West Highland Way in Scotland for our honeymoon, which is about 80 miles. So we could knock that out in like a week, but we can't afford. We don't have the time to go out there right now. We got to go back to work. So we've talked about maybe even joining the Tairora in New Zealand for a honeymoon this winter. I don't know. That also probably we won't be able to swing that one just yet. So lots of things on our list though. There's once you get into the world of through hiking, you just find that there is just this like unlimited amount of trails. So as long as you have the time and the resources, you can do it and be in the woods.
Exactly. Talking to hikers like you, Anna, it's really exposed me to the different through hikes, because there's the big three. There's the Continental, there's the PCT, and the AT. But now I've heard of, the ACT, the Colorado Trail, the Tahoe Rim Trail, and the amount of through hikes that people have developed is just amazing.
Yeah, people are just gluttons for pain is really what it comes down to. So yeah, we would love to Triple Crown. So that's a goal. But yeah, we've got all the time, and it's just making time, to try to do it. So one of these days.
That. Oh, Anna, it's been really a pleasure talking to you and hearing about your experiences hiking and backpacking and through hiking. You've mentioned that you have a blog, but for folks interested in learning about your AT experience or your AZT experience, where are some of the places that they could find your blog and your social presence online?
Yeah, so my blog is Magic in the Mountains. The best way to get to it, though, because I haven't purchased a domain name, is to do that through my Instagram. So my Instagram is Anna McKinney 22. On there, you can find links to all the different articles that I've written. I'm working on converting my AZT musings into blogs as well. So that'll be updated sometime soon. I blogged my entire AZT hike for the hiking website, The Trek, so you can read those. Lots of pictures in there as well. On my Instagram too, I posted photos from every single day of the hike, so you can see lots of things from that, as well as our road trip where we hit all 10 of those different national parks. So yeah, very social. Find me on social media.
And we'll be sure to include a link to not just your Instagram profile, but some of the other places that you mentioned throughout this episode. So folks, please be sure to check out the episode show notes. Well, that was it for the regular questions, Anna. This next section is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 2 hiking related topics, and you kind of just choose the one that you prefer out of the 2.
Alrighty.
All right. So the first one is ascending or descending?
Ascending.
Waterfalls or summits?
Summits.
Switchbacks or straight up?
Switchbacks.
And trek poles or freehand?
Ooh, trekking poles.
Trail runners or hiking boots?
Trail runners.
Loop trail or out and back trail?
Loop.
Jump in or stay dry when it comes to a body of water?
Jump in.
And do you prefer sunsets or sunrises?
Sunrises.
And spring flowers or fall colors?
Spring flowers.
And do you tag a hike or do you not tag a hike?
Tag a hike.
Okay. And that kind of brings me to the final question and discussion I want to have with you, Anna, because one of my favorite articles that you wrote was titled, "Pics or Didn't Happen, Is Social Media Ruining Through Hiking?" And the line that struck me was you wrote, "Recently I started asking myself when the mental shift took place that turned capturing moments into producing content." I think a lot of hikers, including myself, can relate to that statement. Can you share a little bit about the article and how your current relationship is with social media?
Yeah, I think that article really stemmed from on the AT, I had, again, a kind of unique experience. My phone broke halfway through the trail. And so my phone is what I was using to take photos. And then it broke. I went without a phone for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I got a burner phone from Walmart that was basically just a flip phone. And so I couldn't take pictures. It wasn't worth my time to take the pictures. And so I feel like I really got the opportunity to kind of take a step back and see what my friends were doing, just in terms of like, we got to like an iconic point on the trail. Like, say we got to assign that had however many miles to Katahdin, the northern terminus. And people, it was a really emotional time, but then everyone was turning around and trying to take photos. And I felt like I just got this opportunity to kind of look and say like, oh, like this is just kind of how our culture has shifted at this point. This is just kind of what we do. Maybe that's just because I belong to the younger generation and we grew up with these phones in our hands. But then on the AZT, I got a new phone, thankfully, and have a very nice new camera. And so I got to take a lot of pictures again. And so I felt like I really had to challenge myself to not be glued to my phone or to not be like just sucked into the social media thing of just trying to really be present in the moment, still capture what I wanted to so I could go back and look at it and appreciate it later, but really just trying to balance or like hold it in both hands of being present and making this content. It is kind of a weird thing to think of my life at this point as being a production of content. I think that's a hard thing of when you have a presence on social media. That's just kind of a burden that you bear or you wear, I guess, which feels really silly to say. But I look at these like hiking influencers and I feel like I gained so much motivation from them and I have so much respect for them. And I think it really just comes down to knowing yourself, knowing, hey, I am spending way too much time on my phone. This is taking away from my experience, either in this place or with these people, and trying to just be realistic with yourself and holding yourself accountable. But then too, like take the picture if you want to take the picture, like don't feel guilty about it. So yeah, I think it's a really fine line. And I think everyone comes out to having different perspectives and different values that are important to them. If social media is not a big thing for you, then you don't have to feel guilty whenever you are snapping photos because you know it's just for pleasure. Then it's not trying to promote something or have this like on your feed. So yeah, it's definitely a difficult line. And I think it's something that just will get harder the more publicity there is about things. But I think too, that's part of the beauty of now the outdoors being so much more accessible for people is you get inspired when people post like, oh, I did this really cool hike in the Smokies. And you're like, man, that looks awesome. Like, I want to research it. I want to go out and do more and see what's out there. So I think it can be a really beautiful tool just as long as it's used as a tool and it's not something that you let consume your life.
Great points, Anna. And, we talked about it before we started recording, but I had a similar experience where there's a moment where the weather was like basically going to halt my hiking abilities nearby. And, there was that moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have any content for the next couple of weeks. And instantly I was like, oh, that is not the right statement I need to be making. And I've really shifted over the last couple of months, especially this year, where either on my way in or on my way out, but I designate one direction where I'm present. I won't take out the phone. And once I make the destination, take my picture, but, try to balance it by doing that, by, designate, okay, I'm not going to take pictures on my way to the summit, but on the way down.
Yeah, that's an awesome boundary to set for sure.
And
with yourself, which can be the hardest thing to do.
Yeah. Some of my favorite hikes this year have been from influencers that have posted. And even for me, where they don't tag it, and it gives me a little project to research and be like, okay, I need to find this place. So I think it is a great tool. And like you said, it's just finding a balance of using it as a tool, but not letting it consume.
Absolutely. And I think too, there's a lot of ethics that go into even just like tagging places, for instance, of just having to have a conversation with yourself of like, okay, if a lot of people were to start coming to this place because of this tag, like, are there enough parking spaces available? Like, are there trash facilities or are there restroom facilities? Like, what is the environmental impact going to be on this place? But then I think too, I just always encourage people to research a place, to have a plan, carry your 10 essentials in case anything was to go astray, let people know what you're doing. Just kind of all of the like checklist of safely recreating in the wood, the like guide in me. I was like, oh, come on, people, be smart. So I think that there is obviously a lot of freedom and a lot of beauty to be seen, but I think that it's our responsibility to do that responsibly, not just for our safety, but for search and rescue safety, for the safety and well-being of the environment as well. So it's a big challenge, but I think it's something that we're definitely up for the taking.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Anna on our season 3 premiere. We extend our heartfelt thanks to Anna for coming on the podcast. Make sure to stay connected and follow her adventures on Instagram at Anna McKinney22. Don't forget to check out the episode show notes for all the important links we discussed today. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the summer, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday, with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on any thrilling tales, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to join our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. A special shout out goes to our incredible audio editor, Alex, whose exceptional skills and dedication help bring each and every episode to life week after week. Thank you, Alex, for your invaluable contribution to the Hikes and Mics podcast. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Flip Socks. Whether you're on the trail, on the job, or in the yard, Flip Socks will keep Mother Nature out of your boots with their innovative nylon sleeve. You no longer need to worry about any annoying debris getting trapped in your boots during your hikes. Simply flip down the nylon sleeve over any boot to prevent Mother Nature from finding its way inside, keeping your feet comfortable all day long. To get your first pair, visit flipsockswithaz.com and enter promo code HikesMics10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for listeners who use the promo code at checkout, I'll be donating 100% of the Season 2 promo code proceeds to Big City Mountaineers, who provide transformative experiences through connections to nature that strengthen life skills and build community for youth and disinvested communities across the nation. So if you're tired of bits and pieces of the trail finding its way into your hiking boots, pick up a pair of Flip Socks today with the promo code HikesMics10 to get 10% off. For website and promo code, see the episode description.